They're like,
It's connecting. All right, you're live.
right? Isn't that what people do, right? I love the gong. That sound of the gong reminds me of the reverberation of life because it does reverberate back to you, right, Levi? It does. Because things project back what you reflect, or vice versa. What you project reflects back to you like a mirror. It's a great meeting that I have that I used to do. It's called the mirror meeting. One of these days, you and I are going to get into that because I think you have to look into the mirror, buddy. Your hairs look like they're out of place. The sound of the gong. Do you hear the sound of the gong in your life? If you don't get one, it's a fantastic experience. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Everest Effect. My name is Robert Everest. I am your host, hopefully your friend on this guide. I have spent the last 2 decades of my life, although I'm still young, I have spent the last 2 decades of my life falling over and over and over again and figuring out a way to pick myself up, dust myself off, and get back into it again. Sometimes life is just like that. And I think once we come to terms with it, when you become comfortable with life just being life, then suddenly a lot of those problems just melt away. Things melt away. But hopefully, if you take this approach of, I want to learn, I need to learn, I have to learn, I will learn, then you will find that every failure is an opportunity. Every bad thing has a silver lining. I know we've heard it 1,000 times, right? Oh, there's always a silver lining in the gray clouds, but it's true. It really is, especially if you find a way to find that silver lining. Looking for the silver lining is looking for the positive. Looking for the positive inhabits a positive state of mind, which energetically makes things more positive around you. A lot of times, and we'll get into what the subject of today is, but a lot of times people have forgotten how magnanimous they really are, how internally powerful they really are. And you can easily see just how contagious mannerisms, attitudes, and energies really are. We've seen that from just watching old Western on TV or pull it up on a movie, whatever your favorite is. My favorites used to be Clint Eastwood, just because I love that brooding sort of thing where you didn't have to say much to mean much. But if you watch those old Westerns, there's a guy in a bar, he walks in, comes through the doors, cha-ching, 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 he walks, everybody turns and looks at him. Who's the stranger at the bar? And then suddenly he asks for a drink and somebody out of nowhere, a negative soul, comes into the frame and he sits right next to him. And for some reason, he antagonizes him. He doesn't even know why he's antagonizing the guy, but he is. And the cool guy at the bar says, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And the guy continues and persists. And the next thing you know, a fist is thrown. And what happens? Everyone starts throwing fists. That's the way life is. I used to use this in our direct sales teachings. It was called the cow theory. So the cow theory, the cows all graze together. They herd together. They lay together. They move in one direction together. And someone is typically corralling them, unless they're wild cows. Have you ever seen wild cows just running around? But that's that mentality of I kind of do what everybody else does. So that energy, that fantastic energy can be both negative and can be both positive. What are you projecting? What is your energy on a daily basis? Today's topic is the 10 single things that can make the most effective leader out of you. Now, when I say leader, sometimes you right away, if you're folks that, let's say you don't have a business and you're working for someone else, that doesn't mean you can't be a leader. If you have a family, you have to be a leader. If you have a friendship and you want that friendship to flourish, sometimes you have to be a leader. Sometimes you just have to be a leader for yourself, take control of your own life. That's what being a leader is. Being a leader is not only I will take my troops through the river to the other side so we can win a war. Being a leader is not only I am going to conquer something. That's what we think of when we think of leaders. But very often, leaders aren't necessarily playing the game, right? Think of football. Football would be a great analogy because you have a ton of players playing football, but there's typically one guy, the coach, for the most part, who is leading the team in a direction towards the win. But he's not on the field with them actually playing. He's playing in his mind with them. So get that distinction into yourself. I think that's going to really help you to say, okay, so being a leader, I don't have to frame myself. Because a lot of times what will happen is we'll just turn something off, right? If we can't digest it, we just turn it off. If I have to make a commitment to sit here for an hour and listen to Rob talk over and over and over, that commitment might make me like, oh, well, this doesn't really apply to me. But it does. Because being a leader, if there was no one else and you were on the island by yourself, you would still have to lead yourself to a positive place so you could survive. Leadership is something that can be developed. If you weren't born a leader, that's okay. Leadership is something that is learned, it is something that is practiced, and is something that is used. Not just practiced, but used for the result that you want. So my recommendation to you at any time, if you hear Rob Everest and you hear the Everest Edge, I don't want you to necessarily sit in front of the computer or on your tablet or on your phone staring at the screen and hoping that every single word you will digest from me. Because the chances are you probably won't. You'll get some of it, but you're not going to get all of it. So what I want you to do is find a way to go about your life and just put me in your ear. That's repetition equaling retention. Believe it or not, your brain is smart enough to even collect data when you're not telling it to. Why do I say when you're not telling it to? It always leads back to the two minds that I believe are resolving in every human being's experience. There are two singular minds. They're independent of each other, but they coalesce with each other to create you and your experiences. There was an old fable. It was like a metaphor for American Indians, and it was called the two wolves theory. And there was a young tribal child, and he's walking with his father near the river, and he turns to his father and he says, you know, Dad, I've been having these terrible dreams, these horrible dreams where bad things are happening, and there's this wolf, you know, and I don't know how to interpret what's happening. I don't know if he's going to eat me, if he doesn't want me, if he's rejecting me. I just don't know what to think. And the father says to him, there are two wolves inside of you every day. Now, if you find another version of this metaphor, of this analogy, great. Take it. It still means the same thing. And these two wolves are polar opposites. One is courage and appreciation and gratitude, love, respect, honor, dedication, and truthfulness. And the other wolf is defiance, anxiety, anger, jealousy, fear, rage. Fill in the blanks. I like to say that a lot because it's your journey, your story, your words will count. And they are constantly, these two wolves are constantly at battle with each other. They are fighting each other on the daily basis. If we weren't to look at this analogy, I would call that your superconscious mind and your egotistical mind that are constantly fighting. But to go back to this fable of the American Indians and the wolf, the child is listening with his eyes really wide, and he looks at his father, almost bewildered. He says, but if they're fighting in me all the time, Father, who wins? Do you know the answer to that? The father says, the wolf you feed. That's the one that wins. That's life. You can flow power. You can flow positivity. You can give people excitement. You can lift them to an elevated level. You can offer them goodness. Or you can be pessimistic. You can be bigoted, racist. You can be just kind of complacent in the way that you think. And so really, it doesn't matter how I behave because I'm going to die anyway one day, and who cares? You can take either of those approaches. Neither one of them are wrong. Did you know that for your life? That's a hard pill to swallow. Tough concept to understand. Either of those choices are okay choices because they're your choices. And you're not living for the other opinion. If you are, that's something we have to work about. We have to work on that because the opinions of others, they're not your life. They're just an outside opinion. Your inner world, your universe, that's what matters first and foremost. So if you feed the wolf that's good, you'll get more good. And when you don't, when you receive negative, because not everybody's great in the world, you're going to have bad players everywhere. So let's say you are always this positive person constantly. I do everything right. I do everything positive. I try to be the best I can. I'm delicate when I talk to people. I'm conscious of how they feel and their soul. I don't want to hurt anybody. Come on, we have friends like this. And then something bad happens to them. And they say, why does this happen to me? I'm such a good person. I do the right things. When you begin to craft the which one I feed, you will find that even when the negative stuff happens, you are above it. When you get the flat tire, you'll look at the flat tire and instead of kicking it and saying, son of a bitch, I can't believe I'm going to be late to this meeting and this is terrible and what's happening? What's going on with my life? You'll get that flat tire and you'll stop and you'll say, wow, this gave me a moment to grab a drink of water because I was really thirsty and stressing out about heading to this meeting or catching up with this date. You'll be able to look at the negative in some other way than it's being a material negative that will affect your life, because it won't. Of course, if somebody comes with an axe and chops one of your legs off, in the material world, you will be affected. And I don't agree that you should that you should always be sort of an advocate of do whatever you want to me and that's okay. Or let life beat the shit out of me and that's okay. I don't advocate that. What I'm advocating is utilizing your experience to decide which one of those is right and then picking that road and walking on it with confidence. So when the flat tire happens, you say, well, I guess I'm going to miss that meeting. Oh, well, that's life. It's okay. It's not the end of my world. You wouldn't be able to look at that if you were always feeding the negativity. So keep that in mind when we talk about how the two minds in you operate, because it plays a huge part in what our subject is today, which is being an effective leader. Step number 1 on being an effective leader, lead by example. Now, doesn't that sound just like, oh, really? That's it? That's all I have to do is lead by example? Have you really ever thought about the examples that you set? Are you an awesome person all the time? Are you always trying to get the best out of your friends and your family and the group around you? Are you always trying to get the best out of yourself? Do you believe yourself when you tell yourself that you're going to do something? Or do you push it under the carpet when you don't do it and call it, I was trying? Being an effective leader as leading by example. So if the example that you would like to receive, if I want something super positive to happen, if I want that person to enjoy me more or to want to take my relationship with them further, if I want my subordinate or my employee or my colleague to get further with me, what is my example first? Forget everybody else. Put them aside, put them in the closet, stick your mom's opinion, your dad's opinion, your cousin's opinion, your teacher's opinion, your mentor's opinion, put them all away. What's your version of a good leader? Is he someone that you would jump into the trench if he saw a problem and say, I got this? I'll tell you a great story. A dear friend of mine is a filmmaker. He's a very talented young filmmaker. And he's got this DP. Okay. And We'll leave names out of it in case he's watching. He's got this director of photography. And he takes this director of photography to his state. And he says, all right, listen, here's what I need from you. This is the leader of the movie telling the leader of the photography. This is what I need from you. Can you assemble these shots? Show me what they're going to look like. Anybody that's in the movie industry, you'll understand what I mean. Give me a shot list. Give me a storyboard. Let's see what this thing is looking like. And the director of photography, a director of photography. So let's examine that. He is a director of photography. He directs the photography. He turns to the director of the movie and he says, well, isn't that something you should be able to do? Shouldn't you be able to? Why is that my job? How many times have we had that? How's that my problem? Why does that affect me? We've heard that from so many people in so many capacities. But instead of being an arrogant, insecure director, his response was admirable. When he was telling me the story, I was waiting for my friend to say, I told him, what are you talking about, man? You're the director of photography, man. You were supposed to be able to do this, which only causes more dissension, more tension, and eventually separation, right? That's not the kind of leader I want. I don't want the director to lead me by some wormy behavior. So he doesn't give that. Instead, he says, okay, I understand. I completely understand where you're coming from. So let me show you what I would do if I was in the director of photography's chair. And he begins to lead the guy by the example of, it's okay that you feel insecure on your own right, because people have reasons for their inabilities. A lot of people will make excuses for the things that they can't do because they're covering up something else. They're covering up a fear of failure. They're covering up a fear of success. That's me. I can tell you 100 stories of, through my experience, through my journey, where I was afraid of the success, not so much the journey. But whatever their excuses are, whatever's in their minds, I don't think that's what matters. When you're an effective leader, what matters is that you immediately take the reins. If you were in a carriage and you were stirring a bunch of horses, or if you were just on a one horse, right? A carriage has many, one horse is just you, you're the rider, and your horse began to go out of control. If you were leading by the example, you'd grab a hold of those reins as tight as you could, you'd slow that horse down, and you would start to guide that horse to where you want. You would not jump off the horse and hightail it out of there. That's not an effective way to get the horse to respond to the very stimulus that you need to get to where you're going. You wouldn't be able to get there if you jumped off the horse and it was 50 more miles. That's a hell of a trek for you. So when he did that with his independent thinker, that independent thinker turned to him and said, wow, that's what you meant. Or I think he used the terminology, I got this. I got this meant that he was capable of executing the right type of leadership. I was in the desert. There's a place here in California. It's called 29 Palms. I was shooting scenes of a science fiction movie that I'm working on right now currently. And it was hard work. It was like 115, maybe 120 degrees in the desert. The camera package had these giant lenses on it and battery packs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the camera was extremely heavy. We were an independent production, so we didn't have giant grip trucks and cranes and sliders and tracks and trains and 100 people. It was a small crew, and so we had to make do with what we needed. And I will never forget that the director of photography, coincidence, right, was holding this camera in front of him. And he had these poles that came out of a knapsack in his back, and it connected to this stabilization system that he was holding, which on its own was probably 15 pounds. Then on top of that, he had the cameras, like another 20, the camera, the lenses, the batteries, maybe a sound blanket may have been over it. I don't exactly recall, just to minimize some of the sound. But the guy was chasing a character in the desert. And as the character's running, the director of photography is falling. He's falling. He's falling. The hands keep coming down. And he says to me, I can't do this. I can't do this. Wow. I was devastated here. How could you not be able to do this? You're a director of photography. This is what's going on in my head. This is something you should know. You should already know this. How many times have we done that? Where we're talking to our colleague, friend, mother, father, girlfriend, brother, sister, wife, husband, son, and we expect something from them because we think we can do it. So we think everybody else is like us. Sometimes they genuinely can't do something, or at least they can't do it yet. So I didn't verbalize it to the director of photography. I didn't say how I was feeling. I didn't tell him, I can't believe this. You should know how to do this. I thought it, but I didn't act it. So I said, let's try one more time, thinking maybe he'll understand. If I say, let's try one more time, that means try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Of course, don't beat your head into the wall looking for a treasure for 27 years, and then you never find it and you're like, where did my life go? But that's a larger example of when to quit because you're beating your head against something that hurts. This is not that. This was I hired you. You're a professional. You've done this. You should know how to do it. But he said, I don't know how. I can't. So I thought this negative moment in my mind, and then I remembered what I've learned as a leader, that the only way that I would be able to get the best out of him was by leading. The sun was dropping. If anybody that's in the movie business is watching this, it's called Magic Hour. We were there to capture the melting sun on camera, which has a finite amount of time that you can actually do it. And that sun was going away fast. And these weird clouds were coming in. Now, I'm going to digress just for a split second. When those clouds started rolling in, my first mind, my egotistical mind, not my superconscious mind, not the one that sees all things good and possible, but the one that sees from this very narrow field of focus that I have been conditioned as a human being, interacting with other human beings to be like. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, can you guess? Shit, those clouds are going to screw up my frame. So not only am I out of a DP, he can't. The sun is going away. It's going to be gone. Now I have clouds. I took a single 60-second pause. I looked at the clouds. I looked at the sun. I looked at the DP. I looked at the camera equipment. I looked at the staff. I grabbed the camera. I put it up in front of my chest. And I said, no problem. His name was Adam. No problem, Adam. Let's go. And he's looking at me. This is the director of the film? This is the guy? He's holding the camera? He's not a cameraman. No, I wasn't. But I was knowledgeable enough, which, by the way, sometimes is enough, because perfection is the death of execution. I knew enough to say, I could do this. I asked him, do me a favor, run alongside of me and keep this focused and then focus into infinity. So that just means that so we can see everything and we don't have to worry about a soft focus here and a in focus there or shallow depth of field. I just needed the shot. And I ran with the Movi in my hands and the camera, and it was heavy. I understood his pain. But my intestinal fortitude said, get the shot. And I persevered and I took take one. I ran back to one. And he said to me, let me take the camera. And I said to him, it's okay. Take a break. And I ran again. And then I did a third take. When I went back into post and I was looking at this stuff, what was before my eyes was fascinating. It was the most incredible, natural, CGI-looking background that I could have ever asked for. When I say CGI, computer-generated imagery, is really cool, but it can also have a kind of weird look fake. But when they do it really good, like in Jungle Book, when they do it really good, you don't notice it. You get lost in the story. But when it's real, when something falls out of the sky in a movie and it terrifies the actress or the actor, and it was an accident, That reaction from that actor is natural. It makes better film, especially if you got it all on camera. What's the moral to this? I was not going to submit to the ego mind and treat the guy like I was a boss, because the whole idea of a boss means that you boss people around. No one wants to hang out with a boss. That's why we have a million stories about the horrible boss. That's why they made a movie called Horrible Bosses. So I don't want to be a boss. I don't want to push you around. I want to elevate you. I want to encourage you. I want to lead you to help me to achieve a dream that together we can achieve more. That's what that acronym for team is. Together each achieves more. But when I looked at the footage, I was blown away. I was blown away. I couldn't have paid for the way that scene looked. And it didn't bother me that it was me. I didn't walk around with a chip on my shoulder and say, hey, that DP couldn't do it. I did it. Ha! No, instead, what I did was I hoped that what I was capable of doing would inspire that DP. And it did. It did. Because later in the night when we were eating dinner and the crew was together, he pulled me aside. And instead of saying, hey, I don't think I could do this, or, hey, man, thanks a lot for helping me out, he said, I'm sorry I didn't believe in myself enough. And I said, but you did. You gave it your all. Your shoulders were tired. You were exhausted, and that's okay. We'll get it on the next one. And do you want to know? When he came to the set in the following morning, he was on fire. So the first step to a great leader is lead by example and forget the superfluous opinions and negative emotions that you have. Just get in it to win it. Show them that you first are capable before you expect someone else to be. Which brings me to step number 2. You must show that you are successful at whatever it is that you want to do before your expectation comes from others. You can do this in relationships. You can do this with anyone. Show that you're successful at it first. That doesn't mean that you have to be an expert. It means really that you're willing to put in the work to get it done and that you understand what it takes. That's the second step of being a great leader. Leading someone by showing them first the example that I can, and then I'm going to do it well. And look at how well I'm doing this. You see it? But I don't show it to you like, hey, come here. See how good I'm doing this? No. It's success is kind of in the mix already, right? How many times have we looked at actors, famous actors in Hollywood, and we go, where'd that guy come from? Holy crap, that dude just became famous overnight. And I laugh. I marvel because I'm not one of those people that says that came from overnight success. You ask any of those people and 99.9% of them are going to say, yeah, that overnight success took 15 years. 15 years of 365 overnights. That's the truth. So that's what I mean. He showed me his success, but I didn't see his journey. But because he showed me the success, he made me know it was possible. That's a great leader. First, he led by the example. He was willing to do it for 15 years every day, 365 days a year. That's the example. Then he got the success that he wanted or she wanted. And when I look at that person, I know, oh, wow, that's a person I want to emulate because they really are a leader. They really did become successful. And that brings us to step number 3. Your success will come also by showing others how to be successful. Let's go back to that story in the desert. My success of that shot, which I'm not a cinematographer, guys. It's a beautiful shot. Thank goodness that I had enough sensibility to not let the camera fall, or at the very least, I held my shoulders until they burned and I suffered all night. With burning shoulders, like I just worked out for 10 years. But what happened was the shot was good. The discipline that I showed the cast and crew was good. It was good. It was filled with positivity. I didn't yell at anybody. I didn't scream at them. I didn't tell them, you know what? You're no good. Get off my set. And you know there's a lot of people in the Hollywood industry like that. They lead by force, not by example. But you know what that showed Adam? Rob successfully pulled that off. So he saw me lead by the example. He already knew that I was a successful individual, because otherwise, why would he be on set with me in this film to begin with? But then I furthered that by showing him how to be successful in this by not saying I can't. And then when he watched the footage, it didn't make him go, hey man, you should be a DP. It made him say, tomorrow I'm going to kick some ass. And we're getting this shot done. Step number 4. When you're building something, anything, I don't care what it is. If you want to build a little Play-Doh sculpture with your kids, you want to build a fantastic building in Manhattan. It doesn't matter. You must first have integrity. You have to have integrity in the people that you brought around you to help you. That goes back to not being a boss, but being a leader. You have to have integrity in them. I'm going to build with integrity. It's just like a structure of a house. Really, use nature as a guide in so many ways. It's so easy to see. Look at a tree. If you take all the roots from a tree away, the tree falls. The roots are the foundation, the integrity. That's what that is. Figure out your own analogy. You'll find one. They're out there. Life has imitated nature almost always through history, not the other way around. Nature has its own path. It has its infinite intelligence. You hear what I just said? Nature has an infinite intelligence. It doesn't say, I don't feel really like producing a fruit today. Hey, you know what? I'm kind of tired. That wind has been beating the living shit out of me. I think I'm going to fall over. I don't think I want to keep growing. No, it has an infinite intelligence. It just is. The roots knows to go down. The tree knows to grow up. The wind comes, makes the trunk stronger, makes the branches stronger, and it's built into the secret sauce of its life force. Humans have a detriment. Human beings have an opinion. We have something called the ego mind. That ego mind is the very thing that digs up the roots. It's the very thing that doesn't believe that the wind is a good thing. It's the very thing that doesn't understand integrity in what you're doing. It only sees, where's my result? If I don't have a result, we live in that world today. Social media, great example, right, of that world. Where are my likes? Where are my likes? Where are my likes? Listen, we all want likes. We all want loves. We all want to be admired. Maybe some of us don't. I know a lot of people that don't want fame. They don't want success like that. They really enjoy their solitude. I have friends that are Buddhism and, these guys go take retreats for 6, 7, 8 months at a time, and they really drop out of society. Yes, those people exist. But a lot of us love validation. We want to feel good. We want to feel like somebody's propping us up. But social media would be a great example of what part of it are you looking at that matters? If you're looking at this for the likes and the loves and the views and the subscribers only, then your message will never have integrity. It'll be based on a false sense of security for myself. But if you're not interested first, I didn't say you're not interested. If you're not interested first in the likes and the loves or the followers or the way people pat you on the shoulder and make you feel good, if instead you're interested in pushing out or giving the best you, if you are one of these crazy YouTubers that does these stunts, you're running around, you're doing all these crazy stunts and, you're driving cars off bridges and, you're damaging things and you're swinging off the Hollywood sign for those of us that we kind of know you, that's cool. Are you doing it for the likes and the loves? Or are you doing it because it's funny as hell? You just want to get out there and entertain. And if all that other stuff comes, well, then you did a really good job. That's a question only you can ask yourself. But if you want to have integrity in the things that you do and the people around you, and you want to build that in, then you have to put first the idea that all that you're doing is being done for the foundation of success. It is not being done for the shallow receipt of something that doesn't have sustenance. Because if your YouTube channel falls off, or if people don't like those little smiley faces, or the apple that screams obscenities, and they're like, and you're a one-trick wonder, and all you did was try to push the envelope so you could get the likes, eventually, maybe not now, but eventually, when that goes away, you will have been left emptier than when you started. So that was step number 4. Building requires having integrity in your crew, in your subordinates, in your relationships, in your family, whatever you choose. If you want to be an effective leader, build that integrity as the foundation of what you want. Okay. Step number 5 is earning respect. This is a tough one. Anybody know the difference between earning respect and demanding respect? Anybody know what that means? Earning respect and demanding respect. Demanding comes from a place of insecurity. You have to pay attention to me. I'm the boss. You must listen to me. I'm your boyfriend. How come you don't love me? Why does this keep happening to me? Respect me. Hey, look, don't get me wrong. Sometimes we have people that just blatantly disrespect us, or a situation blatantly disrespects us. But we're not talking about the disrespect that's given to you. We're talking about how you want to earn the respect of those around you, because this episode is about leadership. Commanding respect is those first 4 steps. When you lead by an example, when you show that you are the kind of guy that can put your nose to the grindstone, or you're the kind of girl that can put your nose to the grindstone and zip your lip and just get it done, people around you tend to rely more on that person, right? Don't they? Remember when you were in school, there was cliques, different cliques. There was the drama clique and there was the nerd clique. And there was always inevitably some guy or gal that was a little less showy, a little more quiet. But when she spoke or he spoke, it was meaningful. We gravitated to those people. They never had to come out and force feed you. Respect me, like me, love me. I will push the envelope until you love me. We do that in relationships all the time. You're not getting the kind of love and respect that you want out of a relationship. And instead of earning the respect by being better at you, you demand it in a variety of ways. One is straight up. Hey, aren't you going to love me more? Aren't you going to respect me more? Aren't I good enough for you? And the other way is the sublime, sort of secretly delivered ways, like, maybe if I buy her more flowers, if I get him, if I scratch his back every single day and I rub his hair and I look at him and I tell him how much I love him and I just constantly smother him and I just remind him 24/7 that he is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I ignore the fact that he's looking at another girl and I ignore the fact that he's doing whatever. That's another way that you're trying to demand respect from those people. If you were a boss, a leader, I hate the word boss, just apologize that I use that. If you were a leader and you were leading a group of people, you would want them to admire you, wouldn't you? You'd want them to come to you for the answers. I got to go talk to him, man. This is a guy that, look at him. How many people in this audience would love to really go talk to Jeff Bezos? Just to hear. If Jeff Bezos said, hey, Carmen, George, Bob, Rob, I've got some really cool things to tell you about how to be successful. How many of us would push it away or say, right here, I'll be there at 4 a.m. What time do you need me there? 7 a.m.? I'll be outside your house at 4. I'll wait 3 hours in the car to listen to that information. Do you know why? It's not because he's the richest guy in the world. That was the success that he showed you he was capable of. So you were attracted to the idea that he must have done something right. But the reason why is because you have to be an unbelievable leader in order to teach others to be a leader, in order to have a 500,000 staff workforce and rule e-commerce in our modern world. You have to be a fantastic leader. Because there are two types. There are the leaders that lead by example. There are the leaders that lead by force. Mussolini, Hitler, Genghis Khan. Think of these people that were leaders. They were leaders of nations. They weren't just leaders of a small organization. They were leaders of entire nations, countries. Those guys were negative leaders. They didn't lead by example. They led by force. They didn't care about their people. They said, you're going to do it or die. Where are they today? Where are they? Are they still here? You might say, oh, but some of them just died of natural causes. Come on, guys. Really? I mean, where are they in their leadership? They're gone. Not just because their civilization fell away like Genghis Khan, but because that cannot sustain itself. But then, how many people have we looked at where that leadership was done from a place of integrity? Those people are still around. Their organizations still flourished. When Steve Jobs left, lots of people had left Apple. Lots of people had lots of things to say about him. Some said he was the most genius mind they had ever met, and others said, what an asshole. You know what I say? The ones that said, what an asshole, first of all, did you know him? Did you personally know him? Did you lay on the pillow with him? Did he whisper his inner sanctum to you? Did he tell you what fears he had, what insecurities he had, what drove him, where he came from, what his background was, what trouble he had when he was a child, what adversities he had to overcome? Did he tell you any of that for you to judge him? Political climate can show us that. We bash people in our political climate. Doesn't matter about the names. You know who they are. We bash the daylights out of them and we don't even know who they are. All we do is accept the collective consciousness opinion and we use it and we regurgitate it like we're vomiting in an echo chamber. But if you were to really look at them, if they still have something, if they're still in charge, if they're still running, when he departed the earth, Apple continued. If Apple was built on a foundation of deceit and deception and lies and corruption and, you're going to do this or else, it probably wouldn't be here. In fact, if you ever watched the Apple story, when Steve Jobs was first forming Apple, it became very successful. They pushed Steve Jobs out of his own company. Can you imagine that? Try and imagine that. Imagine you start something tomorrow and in 5 years it becomes megalithic. It's giant. It's huge. And then you hire a bunch of people to be your sounding board and you hire these people to work on the finances and you put this all together and your genius leads them there and everybody's getting a fat paycheck from your genius and their hard work. And then one day they don't like what you're doing and they oust you. Happens all the time, doesn't it, in the corporate world? It's called CEOs stepping down from his own company. But you know what's remarkable when you look at the Steve Jobs story? He went back. 10 years later, whatever that time frame was, they asked him to come back. Do you know why? Because Apple was not what it once was. Because Apple was driven by a leadership that was right. And when that leadership left and they took some other guy just because he had a success in some other company and they threw him in there, he ended up turning Apple into something that Steve Jobs had to go back and fix. Okay? So, earning the respect of those people around you, Earning the respect and not demanding it is a command. I command the respect by my behavior. I command the respect by doing what's righteous and good. If you are a good person, if you perceive yourself as a good person, then act that way in all capacities, even in your reactive places, even when somebody antagonizes you, even when you bump your knee into the countertop, even when you have a flat tire and you're not going to make it to the meeting, or when you miss that plane, or when you miss that date, or when something happened that didn't appeal to your ego sense right now. Find a way to look at it from a place of commanding a level of respect. And what will happen is it will shine back to you with the respect that you deserve. So I always say, command, don't demand. A commandment is a firm assertion of what should be. That starts with inside of you. I don't mean like the 10 Commandments, although that's a great guide, right? Great moral guide. But it was a commandment. It was, if you do this, this, and this, then this is the result. Not if you react, and in one of the commandments is thou shalt not cheat on, thou shalt not covet another man's wife. Thou shalt not covet another man's wife. That means thou shalt not go after another man's wife. It doesn't say thou shalt not covet another man's wife. But if you do, you better be ready to run the fuck out of here before the husband catches you and kills you. Do you see the difference? It eliminates the negative before the negative appears by commanding what is right. Isn't it true you shouldn't be screwing your best friend's spouse or your neighbor's spouse, or for that matter, anybody's spouse? Because that violates a tenet of respect. And that's something that once you learn in the totality of your life, you will begin to almost rise up, like they talk about in Scientology, to that Thetan level, that godlike level. And there are people out there walking amongst us that are like that. One of my favorite, I don't know if he's necessarily a motivational speaker. I think he's more of a metaphysical speaker. His name is Sadhguru. I'm sure you know him. So I've seen a lot of comments about this guy. You look at the thumbs up and the thumbs down, and you have to wonder to yourself, why does this guy who professes peace, harmony, love, energy, the righteous path, the sort of Taoist philosophy and a lot of things that he teaches, why is someone like that is not antagonistic, is not coming from a jealous point, why does he have thumbs down? Who in the world would say that this guy is not professing something good? Only those people that don't understand what having a healthy respect within and then projecting a healthy respect without actually means. Commanding a respect for you first, for them second. That's why the scales on Sadhguru's thumbs up, thumbs down are usually more thumbs up than thumbs down, because he is not trying to hurt you with demand. He's simply saying, I'm here to help. Here's my examples. Here's my leadership. Here's how I try to work on that water project that would bring fresh water to, hundreds of millions of people in India. These are my examples. And if you'd like to join me on this path, I would be most fortunate to know that you are part of a changing world that actually healed where we are. The sixth step. This one is an acronym that I want you to think about. In order to create loyalty and dedication in anything, you must give it quality personal attention. So if you have a pen, or if you don't, remember I said earlier, I want you to just listen to me in the background. If you're busy in your life, put the earphones in. Don't even try to focus on my words. Just let me talk in your head, because what I will try to do for you is to get you to see it's all good. And if you just have it listening, constant, you could be in the middle of a conversation with your neighbor, but that earphone is in one ear, your brain is recording it. If you have a pen and you are willing to take it and take some notes, or if not, try to remember it. PA is positive attention. Okay? Positive attention. Positive attention. PA, positive attention, equals L and D, loyalty and dedication. Loyalty and dedication. If you want to be an effective leader and you have a group of people around you, you want to create something that's fundamental for your team. Loyalty and dedication. All too often, we have people, especially in today's world, this is a fast-paced world, a Me Too world, a give it to me now world, I want it on demand world, and everyone feels like they're entitled to something that's unbelievable. And most of the time, they're looking for that 15 minutes of fame, okay? Me included. Not necessarily 15 minutes of fame, but we would like to be regarded as something for what we have to offer, right? Whatever that is. For me, it would be what I'm doing for you now, or it would be in cinema, or in some capacity of art, where I can expand and give some of that incredible passion to you. But in order for you to be an effective leader, you have to create that loyalty from those people so that they don't want to say, screw that person, I can do this on my own. Because how many times has that happened? In so many businesses where they pirate your idea. You know, good example of that would be, I think there was an agency, it was called William Morris Agency. I mean, I know it is, but William Morris Agency was a great agency. It was seasoned in town. It was a talent agency, and it was a multiple, faceted talent agency, right? They had voiceovers, they had theatrical, television, sports, et cetera, et cetera. And then there was this other agency. It was called Endeavor. Endeavor wasn't formed yet, but the guys, some of the leadership from William Morris literally left in the middle of the night and went to start Endeavor. In the middle of the night, they took the files and they took off. Later, they ended up merging with William Morris to become a powerhouse agency. But if you go into I exiled out of here, they pirated, they took some people with them, they took the things. That made you wonder about the leadership of William Morris, not about the execution of Endeavor, not about that incredible gutsy move of them leaving. For me, it made me wonder what was wrong with the leadership in William Morris that those people were so frustrated. They were so had enough that they were willing to, in the middle of the night, take files out of file cabinets like thieves in the night and go start their agency. And the very next day, calling those people and saying, hey, I've got my own agency. You don't need to be with William Morris. Come with me. And a lot of them went. In order to create that loyalty and dedication, you must give quality personal attention. If I were a fly on William Morris' wall, maybe I would think to myself that Ari Emanuel, who is the leader, who is the most fundamental power position in Endeavor, I have to wonder, was the leadership at William Morris suppressing him that he wanted to be bigger? Was he wanting to grow and they wouldn't let him? Now, I can't interview Ari Emanuel right now, and maybe someday I will, and I'll get that answer. But if I had to imagine in my own sensibilities as a leader, that's what I would point to. Because while it's great to have growth, and I know tons and tons of leaders in industries where someone else left them and they were happy for that person. They didn't leave in the middle of the night stealing files. They didn't do that. They didn't exile out. They left because it was time to grow further. They didn't do it with a vengeance and say, I'm going to take you down. I used to learn everything from you, but now you're going down. No. Some of those people, a great example, my dentist. I have a dentist who has an incredible practice. He has a wonderful person working for him. She was a very talented dentist. She was there for 4.5 years. My own wife wanted to go to the woman that wasn't as qualified, in my opinion, to be the dentist because my dentist was seasoned for 20 years and she was kind of new. But my wife felt so comfortable. She said, it's okay. I really like this person. And my dentist nurtured her. He gave her quality personal attention. He would ask her the questions. He didn't demand the respect from her. He didn't demand it. He said, one day you will be the best dentist in town. And eventually, one day I opened up my email and there was this impassioned email from the dentist, not her, my dentist. And it was saying, I am so happy, we'll call her Gloria. I am so happy to have been a part of Gloria's life. I am so pleased to know that she was with me during some of the best and the worst times over the last 4 years. She has grown to a point where I would only be holding her back. That's the kind of leader I want to work with. And so she went off on her own and she has a successful practice now on her own. But demanding respect from that person, not giving quality attention to that person, you would never have gotten the loyalty and dedication from that person enough for her to be able to come to him and say, Doc, I love you so much, but I need to spread my wings. Then that's hard. For anybody, even in relationships, if your spouse or your girlfriend or your wife or, your boyfriend or anybody just came and said, I really learned a lot in this relationship and I feel so blessed to have known you, but I need to spread my wings. It might be sad. I've had those experiences where people have left my life where I literally sat questioning, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Did I not give enough attention? Did I not? Questioning, why did that happen? But I came to the realization that it was actually the best thing because I did what was right in the relationship. And that person had such a loyalty to me, by the way, such a dedication to me, that they were willing to tell me that they needed to go. That was comforting. I would sure as heck rather have somebody tell me, you have been amazing to me. I need to spread my wings, than to somebody to say, what an asshole, I'm going to go cheat on him and I'm out of here. The next step is hearing and listening. How many of us actually hear and listen to the things that we do or say or somebody's having a conversation? How many of us hear and listen? And there's two components to that. The first one would be act civil. Acting civil. Do you know what that means? That means learning how not to react. Not learning to react, but learning how not to react. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, or how about this? What if you're not having a conversation with somebody, but you're a great leader and you're listening to the stories of others? The people that are working. Have you ever really listened to their complaints? How about this? Have you ever heard their complaints? Have you? Have you ever had an employee disgruntled? If you have, and we all have you ever heard why they were disgruntled? Did you listen to it carefully? Because if you did, the magic answer was right in there where they were unhappy. That's what hearing and listening also means. It doesn't just mean I am in a dialogue with you. I'm going to memorize what you're saying. I am going to read your lips at every turn. I am not taking my eyes off of you. I'm engaged. Now I remember everything you said. But hearing and listening is all faceted. It involves the people around you. It involves what's wrong with their personal lives. It involves you and your personal thoughts. Do you listen to your thoughts? How many times have you fought with yourself and said, damn it, I should have done that, but I did this. Man, why did I do that, but I did that? And typically we go, oh, man, dude, can't believe that happened. Have you ever really heard yourself and listened to it? Bet you would find the answer. So hearing and listening is a giant step in creative, proper, executionable, deliberate, and most importantly, excellent leadership. Okay? The sub-chapters to that would be controlled enthusiasm. It's a tough one for me because, as you can see, I'm a pretty wiry guy. I really love the idea of being animated. I feel like my hands and my body movements and my mannerisms will really elevate a situation. But sometimes we have to control our enthusiasm. The only reason you control your enthusiasm is not to button it up and to tighten it down in a can and close it and put it on a shelf. I'm not telling you not to be enthusiastic. I'm saying if you control your enthusiasm instead of going, fuck you, man, when something happens, good, you say, excellent. I'll bet you the next one's going to be bigger. Or when something bad happens, the enthusiasm about wanting to fly off the handle, because enthusiasm doesn't just have to be positive, all right? Because people are used to being assholes in a lot of capacities in their life. You'll be able to say, okay, hold on a second, let's take a look. Instead of, oh shit, and you get the veins popping out of your neck and your fists are clenched and your teeth are about to crack. You control that enthusiasm. And you hear and listen and observe, because hearing and listening isn't just auditory. Some of it is what you're watching, and it can be converted into a word, which is the image, right? Controlling that enthusiasm, bringing it down a notch, allows you an opportunity to objectively, coherently attack the situation, either positively or negatively. You're able to control it. And the other little subchapter would be a famous quote. It might have been Roosevelt, pardon me. I'm not entirely brushed up on exactly who they are. Levi, can you pull up "Walk softly and carry a big stick"? I think it might have been Roosevelt. It was Roosevelt. See, so I was right. Okay. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Walk softly and carry a big stick." Do you know what that means in your life? Can you walk delicately? There was an old movie, I think, an old television show. I think it was in the 70s. I mean, it was before my time, but it was called Kung Fu. And I just remember seeing these reruns at night. And in the very beginning of this movie, of this television show, the character, I think his name was David Carradine, the character would have to walk across rice paper. You're like, what is he talking about? It was a long stretch of rice paper, and they would show you the introduction to the show, right? It's like an intro, not like last time on Sons of Anarchy or last season. It was every time. This was the same thing. It's anytime you turn on a television show, they show you that introduction. In the intro, he had to walk the rice paper in order to become a Kung Fu expert. And every time he walked it, rice paper, if you know what rice paper is, it's so fragile and so thin. If you walked across it, you'd probably tear it every 2 steps. It's exactly what he was doing. Until he learned to walk in a way that was more subtle, that was more delicate, that was still grounded, that was still here, that was still present, but just in a way that would allow him to not be so gruff and a bull in a china shop. And eventually you watch him clear the path on this rice paper without one rip in it. Walking softly and carrying a big stick means, are you the kind of leader, and can you become the kind of leader that doesn't have to be the reactive, that can be the guy that swings with the biggest bat at the tiniest ball, but he never tells you, or she never tells you, I'm the biggest batter. I'm the greatest at this. I am, look at me, check me out, follow me. An effective leader is one that's quietly strong. He has an inner strength. That's what that means. Walk softly, but make sure that people understand. I might be soft, but you see this club right here? This club will take out 3-4 people in one shot. Pow! That's what that means. Our next step is people that are around your group, they need to hear a subset of things from you on a daily basis. Okay? The first is you overcoming their objections. To be an effective leader, you have to be the kind of guy that can navigate treacherous waters, even if the treacherous waters are the person that's guiding the boat, and that's not you. It's the captain of the ship, right? You're the captain of the journey for him. But you may have put him or her into the position of the guy that's sitting there behind the wheel, right? Let's say you're in a technology company. You might have said, this is my head programmer. You're not doing the programming. You're the CEO. You've got 1,000 other responsibilities. You have to get more money. You have to go out and research how to get more clients. You have to, meet with advertising executives. You have to get with your publicist and, et cetera, et cetera. Keep going. So you allocate a position to someone else. Are you overcoming their objections? Not your own. You've mastered yours. That's fantastic. Let's say we become to the point where we can literally, in this journey that you and I are taking together, let's say we could become better. So good that we're like, my life dramatically improved from 1 minute to the next. That's awesome. Thank you. You did exactly what I had hoped you would do. Enriched your life. But can you do that for someone else? Are you going to say, that's not my responsibility? I shouldn't have to deal with that guy's problems or that girl's problems. I shouldn't have to overcome their objections, but on the contrary, you do. Do you know why? It's something we've been talking about this whole time. Because the moment that you show them you are a problem solver, you are the leader that they follow. You are the confident manager. You are the one that led by example. Can you find a way to look at even others' objections as if something that is easy to overcome and share that with them instead of going, well, what do you mean you can't come in today because you were out drinking all night? What does that mean? You want to lose your fucking job, man? I mean, what do you think? You think I'm here because I just want to pay you because I just enjoy getting up in the morning? Do you have any idea what kind of position you put me in? Do you have any idea? You're going to be like, dude, leave me alone. This is why I hate the boss. But if instead you're like, that must have been a hell of a night for you. Can I ask you why you decided to drink during the week? Just a question. Oh, my wife, man, she was, or maybe it's not that. It was, dude, I totally didn't even realize it was Thursday. I thought it was Friday. And then I woke up when my alarm went off and I went, oh, shit. Can you overcome their objections? Can you say to them in that moment, can you restrain yourself as a leader? Have total restraint and become the proper leader right then and there to get the best out of him or her right then and there? Can you say when they call in sick and say, I'm drunk, can you say, no problem. I am right there for you. If there's anything that you need from me, let me know. Is there any chance you could come in on Saturday? Like for 2 hours? Maybe we can clean up some of this thing that we missed. I'll come in too. So now the objection of him losing his job or her losing her job, and it doesn't make you a pushover, by the way. Of course, if you have somebody that's insubordinate continuously over and over and over and over, and we'll talk about it, we're going to cover that in the actual steps it takes to manage an individual, not the attributes of a leader, but the steps it takes to actually physically manage, including giving them a reality check. In case anybody doesn't know what a reality check is, I'll give it to you really fast. Somebody's doing a great job when you met them, you love them. Suddenly they fall off the vine and their performance or their productivity has dropped. You either watch them exit, or you bring them back to the place that they were when they started. And sometimes you have to do that through a reality check. A reality check is like walking up to somebody, grabbing them by their shoulders and going, hey, what's going on? Wake the hell up! You'd be like, oh, okay, I'm awake. Why'd you do that? I'm awake. Only we don't really grab anybody and do that. We do it intellectually. But when you're overcoming that person's objections, and it's not a common theme for this person to take advantage of you and your goodness. It's just, sometimes they have an objection. I've been calling, hey, John, I've been calling these people. Dude, I went through this whole list. I called like 40 people in a row. They all said no. Nobody wants our vacuum cleaners. Are you the kind of leader that goes, all right, well, maybe I give you another list to call on? Maybe I should start questioning my vacuum cleaners? Or do you overcome that objection and say, you know what? You called 40 people? That's incredible. Did you know that the law of averages says if you use 100 of them, if you call 100 people, 70 are going to say no, 30 are going to say, what do you have? And 5 to 8 are going to grab it every single day. Did you know that? And the guy goes, huh? Did you know that you're literally 60 away from 5 yeses? Dude, I can't even believe you did that. Awesome job. I just overcame that person's objection. That was an objection. And not only did I overcome that objection, I turned it into a positive to get more productivity out of them. Another subset of this your trainees, your subordinates, your employees need to hear is making them feel confident. I mean, when was the last time, how many of you are employers and you walk into your thing and you act like some big maha, douchebag, right? Where you walk in and you're like, oh, hey, what's up, Steve? Or hey, Mary. And you go into your little thing and everybody sits on the other side of the wall fearing you. He didn't come out right now. Is he going to come out and yell at us? Right? How many of you act that way, where you don't go up to them and get to know them or make them feel good or make them confident in why working with you is the best thing for their lives? How many of you don't do that? Right? What about if we tried a new exercise? What about if tomorrow you got on the line, let's say you're at home and now everything is on Zoom or one of these services, right? And Levi pops up. Right? Levi's one of my dearest people in the world. But he pops up, he's on the screen. And I say to Levi, hey Levi, did you get a new haircut? Do you know something? That hair that you have right there, that makes you look the part. Like, I can't even believe it. And by the way, yesterday, I couldn't believe how you knocked it out of the park. Meanwhile, Levi had a better week the week before. He did more. He made more sales. He helped more customers. He designed more offices. He built better architecture, whatever it is that he's doing. It was better than this week. But this week, I didn't bash into him because he doesn't need a reality check yet. He's not falling. It's life. Levi, that hair looks really awesome. But you know what's more awesome? Dude, I just looked at your productivity from yesterday. You rocked it. Let Levi say to you, actually, dude, it's kind of less than it was last week. Okay, but it's awesome. It's awesome. And I'm proud of you. And now I know why someone like you is in my life. Do any of you have enough humility to do that? If you do, do it. If you don't, try it. It won't hurt you. I promise it won't hurt you. It might hurt your ego. That's a whole nother subject. That's okay. I don't mind hurting your ego because your ego has no place in this world. Your ego is the downfall of mankind. Now watch this. There's a difference between confidence and cockiness. Cockiness is on the same side of the street as ego. Confidence is on the same side of the street as a leader that leads by example. You see the difference? Do you see the distinction? The final subset of hearing these people and then giving them more of what they need to elevate them to a point where they become loyal, dedicated, desirous of your success too, want to help you, want to follow you, want to go all the way with Jeff Bezos with 500,000 people working, is you must be a problem solver. That doesn't just mean overcoming objections, because objections are deliberate. Objections are, hey, this happened, what do I do? But being a problem solver means that you have the ability to get through anything. And sometimes their problems are not your problems. To be an effective leader, that would mean being able to become a problem solver even outside of your goal. That's right, even outside of your goal. When I was in direct sales, I had a kid that came to me, and I remember him very well because he was an awesome hitter. This kid could, man, he was so simple, but he could sell better than anybody in my office. He used to come back ringing the bell every day. We used to have a bell. He used to come back ringing the bell every day. He was always on top. We called him Big B, and in one of my first feature films, one day I'll share it with the world, I did a feature film. I included some of this genre of what I did for a living, and I put it into this quasi autobiographical drama fictional movie, and I tried to show it, and I actually used this guy. I brought him back. That's how impressive he was to me, because he was a simple person with a drive like I had never seen before. But he came to me, the simple guy with the drive that could hit it every day, and he said, man, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just having such a problem at home with my girlfriend. And I love her, and I don't want to lose her. And I could see right away this was affecting his performance in our office. How many of you have had to be the teacher, the boss, the mentor, the psychiatrist, the psychologist? How many of us really enjoy that? Not very many, but how many of you also, conversely, have had someone come up to you and say these things, and you're looking at them like, do I need to fucking listen to this guy or girl? I didn't hire, you're telling yourself in your mind, or you go home and you tell your wife or your husband, or you tell your other colleague when they leave, I didn't hire this guy so I could hear about his fucking shitty life at home. That's not an effective leader. That's not a problem solver. This kid or this gal or this person had a problem. Maybe that problem did not exist with your goal, but it was a problem. Can you help them solve it? Here's how I did. And I hope that it was effective, that he took it through his life, that when I finally retired from direct sales, that he kept that with him forever. I said, Brian, you are an amazing person. And I'm sure that your girlfriend sees it. And if she doesn't, shame on her. Right? Because I see it. I'm not a girl. I don't want you. But I see it. But you know what? How long has this problem been going on? And I'm not trying to play psychologist. I'm just trying to be a problem solver. He's asking for that. Even sometimes without saying, can you help me? I think you're a great person, Brian. Your girlfriend's been with you for this many years. She obviously does. Maybe there's something that you have done differently now than you used to do then. How about this? I have an idea, Brian. Why don't you go back to when you first wrote her the first note, love letter, text, whatever you did, and read it to yourself? Can you find it? Man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, look that up. Geez, I wasn't a very romantic person, but you know what? Actually I did. You know what? I took her to the carnival. The first time, and I remember her telling me that we were going around the merry-go-round, and she told me that when she was a little girl, she fell off the merry-go-round and she was terrified of it, and I made her feel so good she got on the merry-go-round with me. And I said, all right, well, time to go back to the merry-go-round. But you know what else, Brian? That problem that you're having at home, where is that problem right this second? Right now, in the material world, not the etheric world that I also live in, but the material world that we are exposed to right this second. The material world, the molecules that have formed into mass for you to see. This table, me, whatever. He says, you mean like, where's my problem? And I said, yes. He says, well, it's at home. I said, exactly, Brian. And that's where it's going to be when you return. When you go home tonight, That's where it's going to be. So why don't you do yourself a favor? Think about what we talked about. Try to go back to that moment of the merry-go-round. Remember how you behaved. And for now, let's know that we can handle that. We can do that when we go home. We can start that new relationship again. We can revive it. We can impress upon it. We can make it more loving, more caring. We can do all those things because we're going to go back to basics. But for right now, let's go make a few $100s a day. So when you go back this weekend, you have a fat pocket full of money. So you can take her to any carnival that you want. And he says, you mean like just forget that I have these problems? I said, no, the problem will be there. It will be there when you get home. But can you put it on the shelf just for now? It's kind of like running out of your house. You're late for the morning rush. Oh, no. And as you're running out of the house, now you have no kids, you have no dog, you have no cats. Nobody's going to choke on what I'm about to say. You're running with the cup of coffee in your hand, in a porcelain cup, and you smashed it into the counter by accident, and it shattered into 1,000 pieces, and there's coffee all over your floor, and there's pieces everywhere. But you are so late to your job, you have to get there now. Are you going to stop what you're doing, grab the broom, grab the mop it up, clean it up, change your clothes, gripe about it, and then get in the car and potentially be let go from your job that you've been late to 7 times in the last month? Or are you going to literally run to the door, smash the cup, turn around, look back, and go, oh, that totally sucks. All right, I'll get to that when I get back. That's what that represented to Brian. But more importantly, that was me being a problem solver for Brian. I didn't say you're going to overcome all of your issues in life and all of your problems. I'm just going to try to teach you how to solve them. Next step is speed of the leader equals the speed of the group. That's right. You heard that correctly. There's nothing worse in my mind than a leader that goes, I'll get to that. Or, he's got a hammer in his hand and a nail, and you just put an entire foundation up, and this leader is still hammering a singular nail like he doesn't know what he's doing. You're never going to follow that person. You're always going to feel that he is subservient to you, and then you will start to come up with solutions in your mind, why you're better than him, why this is the wrong place for you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as an employee. But if you are the leader, the owner of that company, then this is for you to hear. You have to be the one that puts up the foundation wall first, not him. Speed of the leader is the speed of the group, not the other way around. That's called putting the cart before the horse. The speed of the horses is the speed of the cart. It is not the speed of the cart that determines the speed of the horses. You are the horse. You are at the racetrack of your life. This is your racetrack. So how are you going to show them that your speed surpasses theirs so that they need to catch up? Don't assume, that's the subset, that they know this. Nobody wakes up with a little tiny sticker on their head that says, I know everything you know, boss man or boss lady. Even though I want you to eliminate boss theory from your mind, nobody does that. I know what you're thinking. I know what you need. No, but if you show them what you need, if you are the speed of the group, if you're jogging, right? Remember in that movie, Forrest Gump, he's running and people are following. He's the one leading the charge. And then you got to see all those magnificent things that came out of his running, right? The smiley face that said, don't worry, be happy, and all the things that they tried to say. These are all the iconic, symbolic things that happened through the ages, and it all came from Forrest Gump. Do you see that, though? Look at how that psychology worked. The speed of his enthusiasm was so infectious that he had thousands of people running behind him and giving him ideas that would become known for decades. Speed of the leader is the speed of the group. Can you try that tomorrow? Can you be the first one in there in the morning? Maybe you're the kind of boss, you're the kind of leader, you're the kind of manager, you're the kind of person that says, I don't have to be on time. My people have to be on time, which is the first step to success, by the way. We'll talk about the 8 steps to success in a subsequent episode, but the first step to success is be on time. Be on time. Are you always on time? Do you always do what you expect of your people? Are you the speed in that lead? Because if you are, they have to hang on to your coattails because you're going all the way. And the second thing is, don't assume that they know anything. Assume that every person you talk to has a blank slate, even if they've been with you forever. It's almost like looking at your relationship, let's say with a loved one, from a fresh perspective every single day, right? Look at child. I always talk about the childlike sensibilities. A child does not see beyond the wonder. Every day is a new experience. I watch my children play with Legos, and I'm fascinated by them. I stare at them, and I honestly cannot believe that they can literally go to sleep at night, wake up in the morning, and sit down and do the same thing without a care in the world. And if I say, hey, can you build me a building? My son says, I don't know. I guess I could try it. Everything is wondrous. Everything is new and fresh. That means that the child is not acting like he knows it all already. Because the moment that you know it all, you become complacent. And the moment you become complacent, you stop learning, you stop growing. That's a fact. And the final step is something that you need to ask yourself. This is not a command or a demand. It's a request. Are you willing to be a great leader? Because by getting people on track, by leading by example, by doing beyond what you expect of them, by having integrity, by earning the respect, by not demanding from them, but commanding from them, by listening to them, by being a problem solver, by overcoming their objections, by telling them what they need to cultivate them into being better, by being a problem solver, by not assuming that they know anything, you will be able to not just get them back on track, but you'll be able to keep them on track, and you'll be able to forge new tracks ahead of you to continue to get you to the point of your success. This has been the Everest Edge. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Until next time, when we take ourselves to the top. Hello.